Hey everybody, it's Lon.TV, and we're taking a look today at the Wyze Battery Cam Pro. This is the successor product to the outdoor camera that we looked at a few years ago. This has been out for a few months, but I waited on my review until they got the SD card functionality working, which I'll talk about a little later in the review here. Now, the best way to describe this camera is as a notification camera. It will notify you when somebody runs in front of the camera. It will also record the event that set it off, but it's not designed to be continually monitored or have it be continuously recording because it runs off of a battery. So if you wanted a more surveillance-like product, there are other cameras that are connected to power all the time, work a little better. This one, again, is battery-powered, so it has to be more judicious in its feature set. But what's nice about the battery on this is that it's replaceable and swappable, and it lasts about 2 to 3 months on a charge. So you can really get a lot of good use out of this if notifications are all that you are looking for. We're going to get into this in just a second, but I do want to let you know, in the interest of full disclosure, that Wyze sent this to the channel free of charge. However, they are not reviewing or approving what you're about to see before it was uploaded. No other compensation was provided, and all of the opinions you're about to hear are my own. So let's get into it now and see what this camera is all about. Now, the price point on this comes in at around $84, although it does go on sale from time to time. But you should know there's also a subscription attached to it that adds a few features that you might want. That includes cloud storage and smart alerts that can detect what it is picking up. It can detect people, packages, vehicles, or pets. That subscription is $3 a month per camera or $10 a month for unlimited cameras. And this includes all Wyze cameras in the subscription. So if you have this camera and a few of their other ones, if you're paying $10 a month, it covers all of them. But know here, the subscription is important to get the most out of it. In this review, we're going to be looking at the camera without the subscription, so you can get a feel for what you get out of the box, but I will describe how the subscription works as we work our way through the review. Now, this is a weatherproof camera. In fact, this exact camera has been out in my yard since August of 2023. It is now April, the end of April 2024. So we went through fall, part of summer, the winter, and now the springtime. So this thing has been snowed on, rained on, hailed on. It was wind storms, all that kind of stuff has hit this camera, and it has actually worked out pretty well. I haven't had any water intruding into the lens. The electronics have been fine. So overall, I can tell you that it very much is a weatherproof camera, provided you don't submerge it in water. But other than that, it's been out in the open and doing quite well. Now, unlike the previous battery-powered camera from Wyze, this one will connect without a hub to your Wi-Fi. I would suggest getting it set up in your house first and then bring it outside to see if it can stay connected. The setup process is very easy, like all of the other Wyze cameras these days. You just boot up their app, which I'll show you in a few minutes. It will find the camera, and you'll have it on your network very, very quickly. Now, this is powered by a removable battery. We don't see that too often these days. So if you open up the bottom door here, you can see it's got a nice thick gasket around the electronics area. And right now my battery bay is empty, but these are the batteries that it uses. And it has a USB Type-C port on here, so you can just plug it right into a USB charger to charge it up. The batteries last about 3 months or so, depending on how much activity is going on in front of the camera and how often you are live streaming from it. So in my experience, it's been about 2 or 3 months per charge, and that's pretty good. And then instead of having to bring the whole camera in to charge, all I have to do is take the battery out and just swap in another one that I have charged up. They also have a charging dock here. If you have multiple batteries and multiple cameras, you can keep a bunch on the charger and just swap them out as needed. The battery just slides like so into the case here, and you are good to go once it snaps in. You will also note that there's an SD card slot here. Now, by default, what this will do as far as recording onto the card is that anytime it picks up a motion event, it will write that motion event to the card, but it doesn't do continuous recording. The reason it doesn't do continuous recording is that it takes a lot of battery power to do it. So you only get about 10 hours of continuous recording on a charge before you'd have to run out and swap the battery again. It will let you do it, but they don't recommend that you do it given the fact that you'll be very frequently going outdoors to swap batteries. However, there is an option here for continuous power. So there is a USB port, a USB-C port, underneath this gasket here that you could use to apply power to it. Although if you have a power source out there, you're probably better off with the Wyze Cam V4, which is a camera that will run off of USB power and is much less expensive. So you do have some options here. They also sell a solar panel that this will work with. That solar panel will not provide enough power for continuous recording, but it will keep the battery topped off, so you will likely never have to bring the battery back in to charge it. So lots of good power options here, and kudos for having a replaceable one. Now the camera does have a small mount that you can use to screw it into a wall, but you can use third-party ones as well because it basically has a standard tripod mount here on the back. There is a speaker here, so you can use that to communicate with people who might be near the camera. There's also a siren that can go off. The speaker is certainly loud enough to conduct a conversation with somebody who's a few feet away. And of course, there is also a microphone on board, which will pick up audio from what it is seeing. And I did do a quick demo recording of that a little bit earlier. Have a listen. So this is the audio coming out of the battery camera, or at least coming into it from me out here in the field. Now, as you saw from that brief demo, the visual quality is pretty good, although it does compress pretty heavily in its recordings. It does shoot, though, at a 1440p resolution, so a little better than 1080p at 15 frames per second. It's pretty good for a basic monitoring or notification camera, which is what this is designed to do. You also have a few different night vision options. One of them is a spotlight that works with its color night vision option here. And as you can see, I picked up a deer around 11:30 or so in the evening the other day, and the spotlight illuminates quite nicely here. You can make out the detail on the house quite well. The lens looks a little foggy because every once in a while you do need to go out and clean it because it will pick up dirt and dust from when it gets rained on and whatnot. But as you can see here, you can get a good amount of detail without having to rely on the infrared night vision. But if you wanted to go that route, it will turn that on. So as you can see here, once it stopped detecting the motion of the deer, it continued to record, but it shut the spotlight off. And then it kicked on its infrared illuminator, which doesn't work as well, in my opinion, at least at a distance as you can see here, for continuing to pick up some things that were happening around the camera there. You get about 20 or 30 seconds or so of recording before things stop. Now you will get a notification pushed to your phone whenever the camera does pick up something. However, it's generally only going off when it actually sees something that I should know about. And the reason is that they put a radar system on the camera to more accurately predict a true notification event. So the camera usually gets things happening in the driveway, but not on the street, which you can see towards the back there. So I've been very pleased with how well it's been working at only giving me notifications about things that I should be concerned about and not all the other stuff. And that's even without paying for the subscription. And it's been very cool to see what kind of animals roam around the yard in the middle of the night as well. Now, of course, you have to use the Wyze app to set up and use the camera, although it does connect up with Amazon and Google, so you can integrate it with other products that way. And to access the camera, you just tap on it on your list of devices, and if you click on live stream, it will take you to a live image of what the camera is picking up, and you can also hear it, and you're able to access this anywhere in the world, and that's often pretty handy. Now, when you are live streaming like this, this will consume a little more battery, so you want to be judicious in your use of that feature, especially if you can't get back to swap the battery out at some point. You can also view the motion events that were picked up by the camera. Unfortunately, though, if you don't have the subscription, all you get is a still image like you see here, which may not be that useful. And of course, there's no audio associated with that. If you are paying for the subscription, it will send up a brief clip, about 12 to 15 seconds, up to the Wyze Cloud, where you can view it immediately on your phone, and it does come up pretty quickly. But without it, you just get the still images. However, one thing you can do, which I'm still struggling a bit with, is tap on the SD card icon here, which will then pull the video off the card so you can view it and then save it to your phone if need be. What I'm finding with it, though, is that many times it doesn't bring you to the video unless you go back out, go back in, and then tap on it a second time. So it still feels a bit buggy to me. And I think they're trying to make this SD card playback thing as difficult as possible to entice people to use the subscription instead. But as you can see here, this is not a live image. This is from the recording that was made a little while ago, and then I can scrub through this to other events as well. But more often than not, I have to go out and go back in order to play anything back off the card. Additionally, you can take the card out of the camera and pop it into a computer, and you can play the footage back that way too. Now, if you click on the gear icon up here, you can look at some of the settings that you can configure on the camera. I'm not going to cover everything, but I will give you a few areas of interest here. The first is the detection range. Now, this is the setting for the camera's onboard radar. So by default, it will trigger something that it detects out to as far as 30 feet from the camera. But you can dial that in a little bit if you have things at that 30-foot mark that you don't wish to be detecting. You can also set a detection zone. So on top of the radar, I could decide to include or exclude certain portions of the image that it's picking up once you get it situated out where you have things configured. And you can also turn on or off motion tagging in the video, which may or may not be useful to you. Additionally, they have a detection sensitivity slider here. This was set to 4 by default. It's been fine for me there, but if you're finding it's a little too sensitive, even after adjusting all these other things, you can dial that back a bit if need be. Now, as far as event recording is concerned, I have it triggering events based on motion, and then I'm having it record all events. Now, if I had the subscription, I could have it only record things that might include a package or a vehicle that the Wyze AI is picking up. I can also customize things here as well. They do have some facial recognition features available on an additional tier of their subscription plan, so you could exclude faces that it sees that are considered friendly, for example. There's a lot of depth that you can set up here for the recording. You can also set the cooldown ratio here as well. So right now I've got it set to a 1-minute cooldown, which means that if it detects motion, it's going to record that event. It will then cool down for a minute, and then if it detects motion again, it will record once again, and that cycle will repeat. Now, by default, my camera was set to, I think, a 3 or a 5-minute recording cooldown cycle, which means that you'll have a lot of time in between a recording event, and if you do want to make sure you record as much as possible, you can lower that limit, but that of course will impact battery life. Now, if you have the subscription, you can set it to as low as 15 seconds, but without it, a 1-minute cooldown is the best you're going to do. Now, the maximum video recording length here is currently set to 12 seconds. I have found without the subscription that it is recording a little longer than that. So I'm not sure if this is a feature related to cloud storage or not. It likely is. But as you can see here, I can't even adjust that feature without enabling the subscription plan there. Now, there's a bunch of advanced settings that you can check out here. We'll start with the SD card settings. And right now I've got it to record events only, and I've toggled on the recording. So again, it will record every event that it picks up. You also have the option, though, to run that card continuously, but again, that will require a battery swap every 10 hours or so. If I go in here to manage the SD card, I can see how much capacity is left. I've got a 32 gigabyte card inside of the camera right now. What you're looking at here is probably about 2 months worth of events that I've recorded to that particular card, and we have plenty left over. When the card fills up, it will delete the oldest footage when adding new footage. So you're never going to be in a state where it won't record something to the card, but it does delete the oldest stuff when it fills up. You also have your night vision mode here. I've got mine set to auto, but I could force it on all the time or keep it off all the time. If it's off, it will use that color night vision mode, and that's where you'll want to look at the spotlight settings, which I'll show you in a minute. You can also turn off the camera status light if you want to make your camera a little more stealthy. You can also decide to turn off the night vision infrared spotlight if you need to. So all of those settings are in here, in addition to the recording resolution, the sound, and the watermarks that you can also remove. The spotlight settings are right here, and what you can do is set the brightness level on it, and you can also decide whether or not you want to have the camera actually activate it. So if you don't activate the spotlight, the night vision will take over at this point. And right now it's set to sunrise or sunset to sunrise for when to activate it, so it won't activate the spotlight during the day to save power. So overall, I found this to be a nice improvement over the prior edition Wyze outdoor camera. Like its predecessor, it is designed mostly as a notification camera as opposed to something for regular surveillance. But if you've got an area that's really tough to get power out to, and you just want to have something there to let you know if something crosses in front of it, I think this will do quite well. I'm very impressed with how good the radar works in avoiding false positives, for example. Generally, when this camera is going off, there's something in front of it, and a lot of times it's an animal or some other creature roaming around my yard. I still remain a bit disappointed with how they are really trying to steer customers into their subscription plans, where in the past they were a lot less restrictive in features. But if you are already subscribed and you add this camera to the mix, I think you'll be happy with its flexibility. If you are able to get power out to a location, I do think the lower cost cameras make more sense because they can run continuously onto their SD cards and provide many of the same features that you saw in this video. That's going to do it for this one. Until next time, this is Lon.TV. Thanks for watching.
This channel is brought to you by the Lon.TV supporters, including gold level supporters Brian Parker, Budley, Hot Sauce and Video Games, Steve Green, and Amda Brown. If you want to help the channel, you can by contributing as little as $1 a month. Head over to Lon.TV/support to learn more. And don't forget to subscribe. Visit Lon.TV/s.